The American housing dream is cracking wide open in 2025. Cities once praised as booming markets are now bleeding equity like a busted dam. Families who bought at the peak are watching $70,000 to $150,000 in home value vanish overnight, while for sale signs rot like tombstones on suburban lawns. Insurance premiums are doubling, property taxes are suffocating, and foreclosure filings are climbing like it's 2008 on steroids. This isn't a slowdown. It's a full-blown housing massacre. Let's count down the top 10 worst cities to buy a home in 2025. Number 10. Fort Worth, Texas. Fort Worth once carried the glow of Texas prosperity, but in 2025 it's starting to look like a financial sinkhole disguised as a housing market. Just 2 years ago, the median home price here was hovering around $360,000. Today, buyers are staring at listings that have dropped closer to $300,000, a staggering 17% decline in less than 24 months. For homeowners who locked in at the peak, that means tens of thousands of dollars in equity have simply evaporated. The inventory surge tells an even scarier story. Active listings in Fort Worth have jumped nearly 45% year over year, and houses that once sold in bidding wars within days now linger on the market for 60 to 90 days. Mortgage rates pushing above 7% are hammering affordability, and the once booming new construction sector has turned into a graveyard of half-built subdivisions. Developers are offering shock discounts of $30,000 to $50,000 just to move units, but even that isn't enough to offset collapsing demand. Worse, property taxes in Tarrant County are among the highest in Texas. A $350,000 home easily racks up more than $7,000 annually in taxes alone. And when you pair that with skyrocketing insurance premiums, especially in storm risk zones, monthly payments have jumped by $500 to $700 compared to 2021 buyers. Families that stretched their budgets to the breaking point during the frenzy are now quietly listing their homes, hoping to cut losses before the slide deepens. In short, Fort Worth isn't just cooling, it's bleeding. If the crash accelerates, this Texas city could become a textbook case of how fast optimism turns into foreclosure notices. Number 9. Sacramento, California. Sacramento was once the affordable escape from the Bay Area, but in 2025, it looks more like a trap with collapsing floorboards. Just 3 years ago, the median home price was roughly $525,000. Today, sellers are slashing prices into the low $440,000, wiping out nearly $85,000 in value. About a 16% drop that's leaving homeowners gasping for air. Those who stretched their budgets to flee San Francisco's insanity are now discovering Sacramento was no safe haven at all. Inventory is piling up fast. Active listings are up 38% year over year, and houses sit for an average of 70 days before finding a buyer. That's a nightmarish reversal from 2021, when homes barely lasted a week on the MLS. To make matters worse, Sacramento property taxes add up to nearly $5,000 annually on a median-priced home, while insurance premiums have jumped more than 30% due to wildfire risk in surrounding counties. Monthly payments that were once around $2,200 are now closer to $3,000 to $3,200, thanks to today's mortgage rates hovering near 7%. And the buyers? They're gone. Investor purchases, once as high as 25% of the market, have collapsed to single digits. Remote workers who flocked here during the pandemic are quietly retreating, leaving neighborhoods with "for sale" signs standing like tombstones. Even rental investors are hurting. Average rents are flat at around $1,700, while landlords face rising costs. Sacramento's housing boom turned out to be a mirage. What looked like stability in California's capital is unraveling into a correction that could soon rival 2008. The American dream here isn't just fading, it's evaporating. Number 8. Jacksonville, Florida. Jacksonville once billed itself as Florida's undiscovered gem. But in 2025, it's looking more like a polished disaster. Just 2 years ago, the median home price hit nearly $350,000. Fast forward, and values are now sinking into the $290,000 to $300,000 range, an 18% collapse that's draining homeowner equity at lightning speed. This wouldn't be terrifying if it weren't for the sheer volume of new construction flooding the market. Builders in Jacksonville went on a frenzy between 2020 and 2023, with thousands of new homes breaking ground. Now, those same subdivisions are ghost towns of price-reduced banners. Discounts of $25,000 to $40,000 are common, yet inventory has ballooned to nearly 6.5 months of supply, far beyond the seller's market threshold. Insurance is Jacksonville's silent killer. With hurricanes driving insurers out of Florida, premiums that once cost $2,500 annually are now blowing past $5,000 to $6,000 for a modest single-family home. Combine that with property taxes averaging $3,500 on a median-priced house, and monthly ownership costs are devouring paychecks. Buyers who budgeted $1,800 per month in 2021 are now staring at $2,800 to $3,000 bills, forcing many to back out of deals. Rental investors are also getting crushed. Average rents hover at $1,600, barely moving upward while expenses soar. Investors who banked on double-digit returns are bleeding cash, some unloading properties at a loss. Foreclosure filings have already ticked up by nearly 20% since early 2024, a red flag for what's coming. Jacksonville's dream of growth has turned into Florida's nightmare. Overpriced homes, skyrocketing insurance, and a buyer pool that's evaporating faster than a raindrop in a hurricane. Number 7. West Palm Beach, Florida. West Palm Beach once sparkled as a luxury playground, but in 2025, it's becoming a buyer's battlefield where sellers are losing ground fast. In 2022, the median home price soared past $480,000, fueled by out-of-state migration and Wall Street cash. Today, prices are crumbling toward $400,000 to $410,000, erasing roughly $70,000 in value in just 24 months, a nearly 15% plunge that has homeowners panicking. The biggest shock is inventory. West Palm now sits on nearly 9.5 months of supply, compared to under 2 months during the frenzy of 2021. Homes that once vanished in 10 days now rot on the market for 80-plus days, forcing desperate sellers into massive price cuts. Condo owners are hit even harder. HOA fees in some complexes have skyrocketed to $1,000+ per month, eating away at affordability. Then comes Florida's insurance crisis. Policies that once cost $3,500 annually are now topping $7,000 to $8,000 for modest coastal homes, while property taxes stack another $5,500 onto yearly bills. Monthly ownership costs that averaged $2,200 just 3 years ago are now smothering buyers with $3,300 to $3,600 obligations. Many would-be retirees who flocked here are pulling out, unable to stomach the carrying costs. The rental market offers no relief. Rents, flatlining at $2,200, aren't keeping up with ownership costs, leaving investors underwater. Foreclosures in Palm Beach County are already up 22% year over year, a haunting echo of the 2008 collapse. The Paradise Premium has turned toxic. West Palm Beach is no longer the glossy Florida dream. It's becoming the epicenter of one of the ugliest housing corrections in the state. Number 6. Houston, Texas. Houston used to wear its affordability like a badge of honor. Not anymore. In 2022, the median home price hit $345,000, but in 2025, it's struggling to stay above $295,000 to $300,000. A 15% nosedive that's wiped out billions in local equity. The market is drowning in supply. Active listings are up 42% year over year, with over 30,000 homes sitting unsold across the metro. Builders added fuel to the fire, flooding the suburbs with new construction during the boom. Now, developers are slashing prices by $20,000 to $50,000 per home and still watching inventory rot on the market for 75 to 90 days. Houston's property taxes are among the highest in the nation, hammering buyers with 2.1% effective rates. On a $300,000 home, that's over $6,000 annually just in taxes, and insurance isn't far behind. Flood insurance premiums, once in the $1,200 range, are spiking past $3,500 to $4,000 as FEMA reworks its risk models. Monthly payments that were once $1,700 are now closer to $2,600, locking many buyers out completely. Even rentals are buckling. Average rents of $1,600 to $1,700 can't cover skyrocketing ownership costs, leaving investors trapped. Foreclosures across Harris County have surged nearly 18% since 2024, and delinquency rates are climbing. Houston's "everything's bigger" motto now applies to its housing crash. From equity losses to soaring ownership costs, this city is showing that even America's oil capital isn't immune to a brutal real estate reckoning. Number 5. Tampa, Florida. Tampa was one of Florida's hottest housing markets during the pandemic, but in 2025, the heat has turned into a fire sale. Just 2 years ago, the median home price peaked near $410,000. Today, prices are tumbling into the $350,000 to $360,000 range, a 12 to 15% collapse that's leaving homeowners with vanishing equity. That means if you bought at the top with 10% down, you've already lost every penny of your equity and are sliding underwater. Inventory is exploding. Tampa now has over 8 months of housing supply, compared to barely 1.5 months in 2021. Active listings have surged 48% year over year, with thousands of homes sitting unsold across Hillsborough and Pinellas counties. Days on market, once just 8 to 10 days, have stretched to 75 plus, and price-reduced banners are the new normal. Builders are slashing tens of thousands off new construction prices, but buyers are running for the exits. The real killer is cost of ownership. Property taxes on a $350,000 home run about $4,800 annually, while insurance has ballooned to $5,500 to $7,000 thanks to hurricane risk and insurers fleeing Florida altogether. That puts total carrying costs closer to $2,800 to $3,200 per month, up nearly 40% from just 3 years ago. Retirees, who once flocked here, are quietly pulling out because their fixed incomes can't keep pace. Rents aren't offering relief either. Average monthly rents hover around $2,000, while landlords face expenses that far exceed that. Investor activity, which once accounted for nearly 25% of Tampa sales, has cratered, leaving flippers and Airbnb hosts scrambling to unload properties. The ripple effects are clear. Foreclosures across the region are up 19% year over year, and mortgage delinquencies are climbing. Tampa's postcard-perfect Gulf Coast dream is unraveling into one of the ugliest housing corrections in Florida. For 2025 buyers, this isn't sunshine, it's a financial storm. Number 4. Austin, Texas. Austin used to be America's golden child. Tech jobs, endless growth, and a housing market that looked unstoppable. But in 2025, Austin is rewriting the crash playbook. In 2022, the median home price soared above $550,000. Today, it's plunged into the $470,000 range, a 15% decline that translates to tens of thousands in lost equity for recent buyers. The problem is oversupply. Developers flooded Austin with new projects during the boom, and now inventory is choking the market. Listings have skyrocketed by nearly 50% year over year, and the metro sits on almost 7 months of supply. Homes that once sparked bidding wars in days are sitting for 80 to 100 days, forcing sellers into brutal price cuts of $30,000 to $60,000. Ownership costs are another body blow. Property taxes in Travis County are notoriously high, averaging 2.2%. On a $470,000 home, that's over $10,000 annually just in taxes. Add in insurance at around $3,000 in today's mortgage rates, and monthly payments are ballooning past $3,500 compared to $2,400 in 2021. That's a 45% increase in cost with no increase in wages to back it up. Investors are bailing. During the pandemic, nearly 30% of Austin's sales were investor-driven. But now, flippers and rental operators are dumping properties at losses. Rents, stuck around $1,900 to $2,000, no longer cover carrying costs, pushing landlords toward default. Even tech workers, the backbone of Austin's boom, are cutting back as layoffs ripple through the industry. Foreclosures are up nearly 25% year over year, and distressed sales are becoming a larger share of the market. What was once America's hottest housing market is quickly becoming a cautionary tale. Austin's crash proves that even boomtowns can collapse when affordability vanishes, supply overwhelms demand, and costs spiral out of control. Number 3. Stockton, California. Stockton has always lived in the shadow of California's boom and bust cycles, and in 2025, it's tumbling straight into another bust. Back in 2022, the median home price hovered around $495,000. Today, it's fallen into the $420,000 to $430,000 range, slicing off nearly $70,000 in equity in less than 3 years, a brutal 14% correction. The inventory surge is impossible to ignore. Listings are up more than 40% year over year, and homes now sit on the market for 85-plus days, compared to under 2 weeks during the pandemic frenzy. Nearly 35% of listings show price cuts, and sellers desperate to escape are offering concessions, like covering $10,000 in closing costs. The affordability crisis is crushing locals. With San Joaquin County property taxes at about 1.1%, a median home still racks up nearly $4,800 annually in taxes. Insurance premiums, once manageable, are climbing due to flood and wildfire risks, often exceeding $2,500 annually. Monthly payments that were $2,200 in 2021 now approach $3,200, thanks to soaring mortgage rates. Investors, once bullish on Stockton as a cheaper Bay Area alternative, are retreating fast. Rental yields have collapsed. Rents averaging $1,700 no longer cover inflated ownership costs. Foreclosures are already up nearly 18% year over year, stirring haunting memories of Stockton's infamy as one of the first U.S. cities to declare bankruptcy in 2012 after the last crash. Stockton is repeating history, sliding from hope into havoc. Once pitched as California's hidden bargain, it's now becoming the state's next housing graveyard. Number 2. Oakland, California. Oakland, once hailed as the affordable sibling to San Francisco, is now choking under its own collapse. In 2022, median home prices stretched past $820,000. In 2025, sellers are slashing to around $700,000 to $710,000, wiping out a staggering $110,000 in value, a 13% plunge that's gutting household wealth. The inventory glut is staggering. Listings across Alameda County have surged 50% year over year, and homes that once sparked bidding wars now sit unsold for 95-plus days. Nearly 40% of sellers have cut asking prices, and luxury properties are facing markdowns as steep as $200,000. Ownership costs are crushing. With California's notorious taxes and Bay Area insurance premiums, a $700,000 home carries an annual property tax burden of nearly $8,000. Insurance often exceeds $3,500, especially in high-crime or wildfire-prone neighborhoods. Mortgage payments that once ran $3,200 monthly are now soaring to $4,700 to $5,000, out of reach for most buyers. Rents aren't saving the market. Average Oakland rent sits around $2,500, far below ownership costs, pushing investors to dump properties. Vacancy rates in multifamily units are climbing, while eviction moratorium aftershocks are scaring off landlords. Foreclosure activity is ticking upward, with filings up nearly 20% since 2024. Oakland's affordability advantage has completely evaporated. Now, instead of being a cheaper Bay Area entry point, it's one of the most overvalued and vulnerable markets in California. The city is staring at the kind of correction that could echo across the entire Bay. Number 1. Cape Coral, Florida. Cape Coral was once the poster child of Florida's boomtown fantasy, but in 2025, it's spiraling into the nation's worst housing nightmare. In 2022, the median home price peaked near $430,000, fueled by pandemic migration and investor speculation. Today, that number has crashed into the $360,000 range, slicing off nearly $70,000 in equity, a brutal 16% collapse that is trapping thousands of homeowners underwater. The inventory surge is jaw-dropping. Cape Coral now has more than 11 months of supply, the highest in Florida, compared to just 1.5 months during the 2021 frenzy. Homes that once vanished in 7 days now sit for over 100 days, with over 45% of active listings showing multiple price cuts. Builders who flooded the market with new construction are slashing $40,000 to $60,000 off new units, offering free upgrades, and still watching buyers vanish. But the real killer is insurance. After Hurricane Ian's devastation and escalating storm risk, annual premiums that once averaged $3,000 to $3,500 are now soaring past $8,000 to $10,000. Property taxes pile on another $5,000 annually, leaving median homeowners facing total monthly payments in the $3,200 to $3,600 range, nearly double the cost from just 3 years ago. Families that thought they were buying paradise are instead bleeding cash just to keep roofs over their heads. Even investors are abandoning ship. Average rents hover near $2,100, far below carrying costs, making cash flow impossible. Foreclosure filings in Lee County have already surged nearly 25% year over year, the strongest warning signal yet that a full-blown housing bust is underway. Cape Coral isn't just cooling, it's imploding. The city that symbolized Florida's gold rush dream has become ground zero for the 2025 housing crash. For buyers, it's a trap. For homeowners, it's a slow-motion financial hurricane.